Aloha, Madam Chair, council members. This is already a national issue. It is an international issue. Over 50 countries at this point require labeling for GMOs, including South Korea, Japan, the UK, Brazil, Australia, New Zealand, all 15 countries of the European Union, Russia and China. In the last year alone, 36 bills in the U.S. have been introduced addressing the labeling of GMO foods. In California, Connecticut, Hawaii, Illinois, Alaska, Iowa, Maryland, Massachusetts, Missouri, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, North Carolina, Oregon, Rhode Island, Tennessee, Vermont, Washington, and West Virginia. This is not Hawaii alone. Connecticut is among nearly 20 states considering a requirement, with the legislative committee overwhelmingly backing a measure promoted to give consumers more information while avoiding the debate over health concerns. Do we really want to be last on the list to stand up and mandate the labeling of GE foods? The world is headed in a direction of caution regarding genetic engineering, and here, where the majority of GMO field trials in the U.S. are currently being conducted, we need to honor the consumer's right to know. Recently, a bipartisan group of 55 members of Congress urged the U.S. FDA to require GE labeling. And I quote from the bicameral letter sent to the FDA Commissioner Margaret Hamburg, FDA's regulatory regime for food labeling is inadequate and uses 19th century concepts to regulate 21st century food technologies. The FDA currently requires over 3,000 ingredients, additives, and processes to be labeled. And we are simply asking to add one more process onto that list, genetic modification. If in fact GMOs are perfectly healthy as agri-tech corporations purport, then I am positive they would be proud to label their products as such. Unfortunately, as the public desire for healthy food has increased, many companies have continued to label their products as natural while containing genetically modified ingredients. Misleading consumers by allowing GMO foods to masquerade as natural is reprehensible when we consider the animal studies cited by the American Academy of Environmental Medicine, citing and indicating infertility, immune dysregulation, accelerated aging, dysregulation of genes associated with cholesterol synthesis and protein formation, and changes and enlargement in the liver, kidney, spleen, and gastrointestinal system. The Center for Food Safety filed a petition to the FDA calling for the requirement of GMO labeling and garnered 1 million signatures and public comments, including the support of over 450 organizations, businesses, and associations. The numbers are growing as more people become aware, and I encourage you to be visionary leaders into the future of food safety and not the last on the list to notify the public of health risks in their food. We can either choose to pioneer these coming changes together and say to the world that Hawaii health is important above all to both our residents and legislators, or we can sit aside in silence waiting for our cues. And I quote Dr. King Jr., "There comes a time when silence is betrayal." So I urge you in a position to move this ahead to the full council to reflect the will of the 72% of Hawaii residents who want genetically modified food labeled, and please vote overwhelmingly in support and favor of House Resolution 1257. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. Any questions, members? Councilmember Burke.
I think I'm going to ask you this question because I'm going to assume that you probably may know, because I appreciate your testimony and it was spot on and very precise. Are you aware of the President of the United States platform of his position running for office prior to election? What was the position of the President of the United States from Hawaii on the right to know?
He said that as soon as he got into office, he would mandate GMO labeling.
And what has happened?
Nothing.
And who has the President appointed to head up the field in which GMO labeling would come about?
Former biotech executives, and I might mention that Hawaii Crop Improvement Association is run by Fred Perlak, who clearly works for Monsanto, and Alicia Maluafiti, clearly a Monsanto lobbyist. So when someone says to me, Hawaii Crop Improvement Association, by the way, I take it with a grain of salt.
So on the federal level, of which this resolution does address, if this council were to pass this out of committee today, is asking on a federal level to take heed, to take notice, and to initiate.
Yes, and at this time, both China and the Philippines have either reduced or entirely stopped GMOs altogether. It is a federal issue as well as a state issue, but will we wait for the FDA and the former biotech executives to say, oh, sure, yes, let's label this?
Are you familiar with the Mr. Taylor in the President's administration?
I think I've read a little bit about him, but not enough to speak on him.
Okay, so what would be your conclusion then on the President's promise that the right to know would be in the forefront of his campaign when, upon being elected, would undertake such endeavor? What, in your opinion, then, has caused this problem today of that broken promise?
I think a lot of backdoor meetings have caused these problems. I think a lot of pressure on the president, who once was someone who believed these things and has crumbled to the pressure, has crumbled to the agritech money that has been openly paying via lobbyists, legislators around the country and the world for years.
So you've made a connection then between those that are in elected office who have been in receipt of campaign donations from such companies that are lobbyists for the biotech industry.
I'm working on a very complex strategic mind map showing all the connections in Hawaii politics regarding GMO money.
So locally you've undertaken this?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I'm not the only one.
And can you respond to the legislative package that a couple months ago the neighbor islands had advanced, and that was to take a position at their county level that they wanted to bring forth to the state legislature, of which 12-57 brings forth, is to have the state legislature, all 76 legislators, also take action on the subject matter. So when the neighboring islands of the other counties in the state of Hawaii asked for something of unison, what would be your response as far as those other county council members or the mayors? Are they going to be a party to this list?
I say well done to the other counties and legislators who have actually moved this forward in any sense. I don't know everything about that particular suggestion. I really personally got quite ignited about this whole issue as the granddaughter of organic farmers from way back in the day, before you had to call it organic, when it was just natural and taking care of Malamala'aina. So I actually became more recently involved when I heard about the GMO rally at the Capitol and was quite inspired.
Okay, Chair, I have one more question, and then my understanding was that there were 30 countries, maybe a trickle or two over that. You referenced 30. Excuse me, 50. You referenced 50. Where did we get from 30 to 50?
If you look at the Huffington Post, there are a number of different articles. I'd be happy to send you my research. But at this point, yeah, it's over 50 countries that have some kind of labeling regulation or legislature or mandate labeling entirely across the board. And I think regardless of the matter of whether it's 30 or 50, though I just checked my references last night, it's a significant number of countries, and the United States has usually been a leader on behalf of the people, we'd like to think. But in this particular case, we've been failed at so many levels that we're having to come here now and speak again and again and again and request labeling.
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you,
Chair.
Thank you very much. Any further questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.